Okay, we are live. Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 36th episode of Security on the in30.net network. Today, because of the shortened week for us, we recorded on Sunday and now it's Tuesday. We're recording again. We want to talk about the Internet of Things. I think that's what Cisco calls it. But really, all these devices that are all of a sudden Wi-Fi enabled or Bluetooth enabled or NFC enabled or any sort of remote communication enabled, and why that's not necessarily good. It's more convenient, clearly, but why is that not necessarily good for us? So I have questions for Tom, so let's bring Tom in.
Howdy.
And because he's clearly the security guy here. And we just want, it's just basically all of a sudden I look on all these different boxes and I see Wi-Fi enabled. And my question to Tom is, there has to be something wrong with that.
Well, when I wake up in the morning, I don't want to get out of bed right away. So I turn on my Wi-Fi enabled breakfast grill, which starts my bacon. And then I turn on my Wi-Fi enabled toaster, which starts my bagel. I haven't worked out the cream cheese thing yet. Last time when I pre-cream cheesed the bagels inside the toaster, didn't work out well. Had to get a new Wi-Fi toaster. But it makes everything really, really convenient.
It's great. I don't know. Is there such thing as a Wi-Fi toaster? There's clearly a Wii thing. There's clearly a
We're going to
Belkin
figure this
Wiimote
out.
that you could push down the toaster ahead of time at night, and then from your phone enable all these outlets. So you're kind of right, but I mean, there's nothing there shouldn't be anything wrong with that, right?
It depends on the device. It depends on how much the company cares about security and how much research they've done. And it also depends on the network you're putting it on. So if you've got open Wi-Fi and your toaster is sitting on open Wi-Fi, someone, the neighbors or someone who's driving by, could toast your toast when you don't mean to. Or, if your thermostat is on Wi-Fi, and a lot of them are today. The Nest is probably the most popular example. Someone could change the temperature in your house. Is it deadly? Will it kill anyone? Probably not. Is it annoying? Definitely. But, what about other Wi-Fi enabled things? What about Wi-Fi enabled sump pump with reporting and controls? What about a Wi-Fi enabled garbage disposal? Or baby monitors are a big one. That's got huge privacy implications. Even normal baby monitors have privacy implications. Not everything should be networked, and if it is, companies need to be paying attention to the security of those products. You will see all the time a company will release something, say, hey, yeah, it's network enabled, and it's got this newest, latest, greatest, shiny thing, and it's exploited and hacked as soon as it hits shelves. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It really shows those companies, hey, you have to be careful when you put something on a network. You can't just haphazardly throw it on there. Now, let's say your toaster and your thermostat and your garbage disposal and your baby monitors are all on Wi-Fi, but you're on a secured Wi-Fi network. Okay, that's a lot better. Does it mean it's foolproof? No. Does it mean that you run less of a chance of something going wrong due to someone else getting into your devices? Yeah, you're way more protected that way. But we've got to start being careful about that.
Well, it's just that I look now at everything, and everything is either Wi-Fi enabled or has their own proprietary way of connecting. And I just look around at everything I have, and I'm thinking to myself, can this be hacked? I mean, I remember back in college, you stuck your printer on, you stuck the printer into your computer was on the internal dorm network, and somebody would have a field day by what's it called, finding your printer on the network and just printing I hacksaw you or whatever it was, and you're like, what's going on? And then they said, oh, you got to take it off, and it's one of those things internally that you really have to worry about. And you just hear about things like most recently, not recently now, 3 or 4 months, Belkin was the Wii things. not the Wii things, wrong company. The Wiimote, that's the little outlet that we were talking about that you stick as an intermediary between outlets. That got hacked, and they sort of. They said it was hacked. Then they came back and said no, and then they came back and said, well, it was a theoretical hack, but we figured out how to fix it. Now you can update your firmware, which leads us to the next question. Have you ever updated the firmware on your toaster?
I'm running actually DDWR Toast on mine because I like to have a little bit more control over the settings of my toaster.
And that's the other thing. Now you have to, everything that you get from the store that you unbox is Wi-Fi enabled. The first thing you have to do is run updates on it, and then like you check your smoke detectors. Coincidentally, Nest has a smoke detector. that not only do you have to check the batteries, you have to check to see if there's an updated firmware.
Right. And luckily, and we should probably say this, because Nest is actually one of the companies that I think does this the right way. So I've got a Nest thermostat. It is right there on my wall. Love the thing to death, but I don't ever have to touch it. I connected it to my Wi-Fi network. It gets its updates automatically. It self-installs. It reboots itself. It keeps itself out of trouble, and I never have to think about it. With really good Wi-Fi enabled devices, they're going to have automatic updates built in. Now, you know, your router at home, chances are that thing does not automatically update. You know, the toaster might not automatically update. Do you really want something with potential security holes inside of your network? Especially if you're going to take that outside your network somewhere. So, one really powerful exploit is to hack a device, right, and use that as a pivot to get to other devices inside the network. So let's say you take your toaster to Starbucks, and you're using the Starbucks open Wi-Fi and toasting things and drinking your coffee. Somebody puts like a rootkit or malware into your toaster, and then you bring that back home to your secured environment. You just infected your home. You just gave the attacker a pivot point to work through your toaster to get to other pieces of your network. This happens a lot with, you'll see it in enterprise hacks, where one person's computer will get infected, and the attacker will use that as kind of a pivot point to get to the entire rest of the company. That's how the big RSA hack worked. It only took one person opening up a corrupt PDF, a malware-laden PDF, to own all of RSA. Brilliant hack. That's why you have to be careful, because all it takes is one. Remember, security is all about the chain of trust. And if that chain is broken anywhere, it's gone. It's absolutely gone.
It's one of those things that you just don't think about. You hear about, oh, this is really cool. You take it home, you install it, and then you hear later it had a bug, and now you have to figure out what else is going on. And by the way, talking about routers, if you have a router from the cable or fiber company, you got to be careful. They have no incentive. They rent you the box. They have no incentive to update it. It's on you to update it. So when there is an issue, they may send you an email as part of the fine print of one of their ads. Oh, by the way, we pushed a new update to your router out. But be careful. It's not for the faint of heart. Call us, but call us from your cell phone, because if you call us from the landline, you may lose service because it's VoIP, and you see that and you're saying, okay, how important is this? It's whatever. I get Wi-Fi. Why should I change it? People pay to have their Wi-Fi installed, and it's not cheap, mainly because it doesn't work so well. Wi-Fi is not good.
Wi-Fi is very finicky. One of my favorite new trends, it's not really new, but it's new in a couple of the companies I've talked to, is these wireless projector systems. So you've got a conference room, you've got a projector, a big overhead projector, and in most companies, you've got a wire hanging down from the ceiling, or that routes under the table if you're doing it nicely, and you have to manually plug it in. Well, a lot of these companies now, are buying these little wireless VGA boxes that they plug into the projector. It's got a little antenna on it, and it actually broadcasts its own Wi-Fi network. Totally open, totally unsecured. And the company goes, oh, this is great. All I have to do is connect to that Wi-Fi network that the projector has, and then I can show anything I want to on the screen. Yeah, you and everyone else who can see that Wi-Fi network. Because the projectors come with, a passcode lock. The wireless systems come with a passcode lock, but it's not turned on by default. And in quite literally every single setup I've seen of these wireless VGA dongles, no one has turned on the lock. So if someone's using it, if you've got an entire boardroom of people, someone within Wi-Fi range, which is basically, a building, depending on the type of radio the attacker is using, anyone within Wi-Fi range is able to connect to that projector and show anything they want on the screen to whoever's in that room. And it's hilarious and dangerous, and you have to be careful about securing every piece of the network.
Can you build a Pringles antenna and somehow shoot your Wi-Fi signal straight at that window? So let's say you're sitting in the parking lot, and then somehow, I don't get one of those old wireless N dongles with the antenna to your laptop and somehow project it up?
I've got one better for you. If you let me step away from the camera and reach into my bag of goodies.
Okay.
Just a moment. Go ahead and keep everyone entertained.
Well, before Tom gets back, one of the things, I have this problem where I work. We don't have any sort of way to connect other than the one computer. So they're installing Apple TVs, and it seems to work, but the problem with the Apple TV is you're limited to the device. And it's not that hard to set it up in a way. Put the wire in. You're already dropping the power wire. Just put the network wire in there. Yes, Wi-Fi is convenient, but do you really want anybody who's just walking in to broadcast whatever they want?
Or even, a situation where no one's going to be malicious. We're saying, no one's going to be mean to me. No one's going to take advantage of that situation. I'll fire them if they do. Yeah, well, what about, the guy that accidentally hooks to it because he hooked his computer to it once, and the thing automatically connects and just starts, throwing video feed of his email by accident, interrupting the conference when he walks into the room. This stuff happens all the time. You've got to be careful with it.
And it's probably not safe for work. That's generally how it starts.
Yeah, take a look at Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and you have to account for it because it will go wrong, and it does go wrong. So this thing, if you didn't want to build a Wi-Fi antenna or a Pringles can antenna, which
hold it higher.
Yeah, if you don't know what it is, go look it up on Google. It's awesome. This is called an Alpha card. It's a little USB Wi-Fi card that you just plug into your computer through USB, and it's a really, really powerful device. It's about $35, $40. You can find them on Amazon. You can buy them just about anywhere online. This is a high-gain antenna, and if you can't see the scale, this thing is as long as my arm. This is a giant antenna that just plugs right here into the Alpha card. All I've got to do is sit this on my laptop somewhere and aim it. And it is a fantastic sniper Wi-Fi antenna. This thing is fantastic for picking up anything you want. And, because it's got a standard antenna connector, you can make all kinds of directional antennas. If I wanted to, I could make the Pringle can antenna out of this and have like a sniper scope for Wi-Fi. Really powerful, really cool, and easy to do. So I keep this with me wherever I go, just in case.
Well, it's one of those. So we're talking about the Apple TV when you were getting that, and that's how the school is now equipping their projectors, which is not a bad way of doing it. Or hopefully the new Chromecast has this. But what it does is it pops a PIN code on the projector to say, to connect to this Apple TV, put this PIN code in, and the first person who gets it gets on. So if I have a room of 20 25 students, and they know that that's going on, or they can't fool me because I'm smarter than them, but they can fool someone who doesn't know how to make it work, and they can sit there and say, I don't know what's going on, I don't know why this is playing. And it's not that it's happened yet. I mean, I teach in a fairly well-to-do school where it's not like that big of a deal, but I can see somebody trying to play around with it. I already have the students with their HTC ones that have the RF power on, power off, turn it off and on my TV every once in a while, which is funny, but it still happens. And again, it's not that RF is anything that's new, but it's one of those things. Again, you have to be careful.
Yeah, and this isn't supposed to be, you know, like a giant rant against all things radio wave powered. This entire show is to get you thinking about things that, you know, may be insecure, that have the possibility of being insecure, and how you can protect yourself, but more importantly, how you can start to think like, you know, like a hacker, like an attacker, like someone who's going to start exploiting technologies. Because the moment you can start thinking of this stuff is the moment you can better prepare yourself for how you're going to deal with it, how you're going to stop the attacks, or how you're going to, you know, how your purchasing choices are going to be influenced. Baby monitors are huge, and there are so many of them out there that are totally insecure, that anyone can just go buy either a baby monitor or a walkie-talkie and either listen to it or get the video feed from it. I mean, there are tons of them out there that say totally secure scrambled channels, and they're not whatsoever.
I mean, I don't have a Wi-Fi one.
Ever.
I don't have a Wi-Fi one. I was looking for a Wi-Fi. First, we just wanted an audio one. And then someone said, no, you need a video one because it's good to look at. Now, I asked my son now is 10 months old, and I asked my wife, do you ever use the video? And she goes, oh, yeah, all the time. And I go, really? I rarely use the video. Making noise, I know what the noises mean, and I deal with it. And so, but the next step up is the Wi-Fi enabled ones, because who wants to hold the stupid little base if you can get it on your phone? But those now use Wi-Fi or some sort of poking holes through your router, and those are the ones that can be exploited. Because the first thing you do is you mount it. You never think about changing the defaults. What defaults are there? It either works or it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And then we hear what you were probably about to say. A few months ago, they found out that these were just wide open, and that they just scanned all the routable IPv4s and got, I don't know, 100,000 cameras.
Yeah. Yeah, Wi-Fi cameras are probably some of the biggest offenders. I can remember, you know, I think I was a freshman in high school. This is, for those of you who don't know, that was a long time ago. So I was a freshman in high school, and I stumbled upon a website. I think I found it on Dig, where someone said, guys, look, if you put this text string into Google, you can find all of these security cameras. I was like, what? No way. That's crazy. So I put it in there, and all of a sudden, I'm watching, like, Shiba Inus in a vet's office in Japan, and it was adorable. But the point of the story is there's so many of these network-connected devices that just get hooked up to the Internet that should never, ever be hooked up directly to the Internet that people can take advantage of. I probably shouldn't say this, but I once was controlling a security camera for a mall in Russia, and people were pointing at it, and then the video feed died, so they must have unplugged it after they got freaked out. But people put things on the Internet like that all the time. Think about what you're putting on the Internet and who all is going to see it and what type of network access controls you have going on around it, because you probably don't want your Wi-Fi camera broadcasting to the Internet at large. At the very least, you want a password on the device, and sometimes that's not even good enough.
Well, I think we're past the point now where very few people plug directly into the cable modem. I think we've gotten past that. I mean, if you go with a cable provider, at this point they're going to give you a router. They used to not. I mean, we're talking way back in the day where they refused to. Every computer had to have its own cable hardwire into the Internet but they eventually got rid of that, gave everyone a router, or gave you a credit for a router. The fiber companies do the same thing. They build it in, which means that you have to bypass the wireless and go into your own router, which is not the hardest thing, but it's not something that simple. And I don't know, I think DSL also gives you a router.
A lot of the routers today support UPnP, which is called unplug and play. And depending on the device you buy, it can use UPnP to punch holes through your router to get directly to the internet where there are no safeguards. A lot of the Wi-Fi cameras, a vast majority of the Wi-Fi cameras, are going to use UPnP to open up ports, and that means if I'm scanning the internet and I stumble upon that port, yeah, unless you've password protected your camera, I can watch it.
Well, the first step for everybody is make sure you're behind a router. Make sure grandma is behind the router, because grandma is the perfect example of they only have one computer, and the technician said, oh, you only have one computer, you don't have a smartphone, you know what? We're just going to plug you in, straight in, and don't worry about it. If you're going to grandma's house and fixing her computers all the time, maybe check. That could be a vector that she just doesn't even know about. But the second thing is, yeah, you have to go into your router defaults and undo UPnP, which means you have to learn what port forwarding is, which is not hard. It's not simple, but it's not that hard.
If you even need it. I mean, most people don't even need port forwarding. If you need port forwarding, you're probably going to have to learn some things. So and that's okay. That's a good thing.
It's security-wise, being behind a router, being behind the firewall, and learning how to port forward is a very good thing. It keeps you. I mean, when I was running Windows, since I downloaded Firefox and was behind the router, I don't think I got a virus unless I was stupid. Like, really stupid. So, and then I'm trying to think of what else. It's when you get a device, read the manual. Find out how to change the defaults. Make sure the password into the device is not password or admin or whatever it is. Change your router password. Change that password. Just change the passwords to this. You know what? They can all be the same as long as there's something complicated. Write them down. My router has most of the Verizon Fios routers have the super long WPA code on the side, and people ask me, can I change it? And I say no. Don't change it. One, because the password is good. Second, because you're going to forget what it is. And I tell them, better yet, write it down, plug it into your phone in a text file, and then when someone wants it, you can either pull it up or email it to them. And you can go from there.
Yeah, it's all good stuff. And, keep devices updated, especially your router. Firmware updates for routers most of the time do not happen automatically. And it's one of, if not it's one of the most important electronic devices in your home today. It is the gateway to your digital world, into it and out of it. So keep that thing up to date.
Think about your Blu-ray player, your TV. Your TV is now connected to the internet. Your TV may have a firmware update. Some of the new cars are now Wi-Fi enabled, or not Wi-Fi enabled, but LTE enabled.
Yeah.
Make sure your phone maybe the newer cordless phones have Bluetooth enabled. And again, and we all know the pin code, the pairing codes for Bluetooth is 0000.
Always and forever. And if it's not that, it's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Or every once in a while you get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But it's
those are rare. The same combination as my luggage.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things that if everyone, the only person that doesn't remember that is me trying to connect my Bluetooth headset. I have to always Google search what the Motorola Bluetooth headset code is, and I keep on wondering, why do we have it? Like, really, what's the point? Why can't the thing with the screen say, "Are you sure you want to connect to it?" Yes, I'm sure. That's why I connected to it. But the last thing, and we have some time, but the last thing is, as you add more of these Wi-Fi enabled devices, you have to be careful not to hit your cap on your Wi-Fi. And what that means is, I think most commercial routers can only do 16 connections simultaneously.
Yeah, it depends on the router you've got, but a lot of the cheap ones, if they're not going to just flat out ban you and say, yeah, you can have this many simultaneous connections, you'll very quickly, and I learned this with a lot of the cheap Linksys devices that friends and family have. You can very quickly overload a router to where you need to unplug it and plug it back in to get the thing to start working again. Really, really easy to burn those out.
And that's a new. This is a first world problem, but this is a new problem that people are realizing. And unfortunately, they're realizing it on those gift days where the entire family comes over.
Mhm.
Because remember,
Christmas at my mother's home.
yeah, and then now everyone is bummed out, and it's one of those things. This never happened before. I don't know what's going on.
It's phones. Everyone's got internet-enabled devices.
Everyone has
Everyone's got a phone with them. They've got a phone. They've got an iPad. They might have a laptop with them. They probably have a digital camera now that uploads via Wi-Fi to some service somewhere. One thing we haven't talked about because it hasn't become really a big pervasive thing, but it will in the future. We need to tackle this now. Security professionals and manufacturers need to tackle it now before it becomes a problem. Car security, and I cannot believe I'm actually saying that. It's becoming a thing. But security updates, patches, and network security for the systems in your car, you guys at home may not be thinking about it now, but I guarantee you it'll be a thing in the future, and hacking cars is going to be a thing. I hope it's not a thing. I hope it never gets to that point, but I guarantee you it probably will.
I mean, here's another one talking about cars. The thing that Progressive gives you, that little OBD2 thing that sticks in there that monitors your car.
Yeah.
That has to be a Wi-Fi enabled device. That has to do something.
It's either Wi-Fi or it's cell. I think it's cell. It depends on the model, who you get it from, all this stuff. And then you have to think, do I really want to be reporting back information on driving habits? The ODB2 port can tell you literally everything about a car. It's insane the amount of information that port can give you about a car. It can tell you pedal position, brake position, what angle the steering wheel is at. It can tell if you've got the AC turned on, at what level, at what temperature. It can tell how loud I've got the radio in my car because I've got a code reader. And when I plug that bad boy in, I can view everything that's happening in my car on my laptop. I can tell what cylinders are firing when and if there's a problem and when it's going to be a real problem for me as a driver.
But again,
really
I'm not
cool
talking
stuff.
about I'm not talking about you consenting to that. I'm talking about how you have it in there, and somebody, Esurance can. I mean, I say Esurance. I think it's Progressive. Progressive.
Lots of them have it now.
Because they want, and are they being malicious? No, they're not in the goal. They're not in the position of doing that. But think of all that information going out, and who's protecting it? I mean,
right.
If it's
and are
Wi-Fi,
they selling it to marketers? I mean,
yeah.
Is it in your control? What happens when it leaves your car? I mean, that's why it's a port and it's covered. And to install this thing, you've got to pull off a panel. It's not hard to get to, but you've got to pull off a panel and plug something in. It doesn't just happen on its own, and it's a good thing it doesn't just happen on its own. I wouldn't give an insurance company, even if they said, "Oh no, we guarantee you it's not going to raise your rates." Will it? I mean, it might.
Well, rates go up every year.
Yeah.
My rates go up every year for whatever reason, and they always
if everyone is using this, and they say, well, it's not that your rates are going up, but everyone that's age 26, that's a male, that's living in this area, that's driving this type of car, those guys' rates went up because the data says they drive crazy. We got to be really careful about the data we're giving out. Really careful.
I mean, the whole show, and we were just winding down. It's just when you buy that new shiny device, or look at the devices you have on now, ask yourself what information is, I guess, it's leaking. or what information is it sending? And something as stupid as I just mentioned, the OBD2 thing for the insurance companies is a great example. Or are you sure your baby monitor is secure? Or are you sure that your toaster at the top of the show is not erroneously sending information? Because we're not talking about actually giving it. We're talking about somebody coming by
I don't
and
want
either
Wonder
stealing it.
Bread taking my information. The information of how I toast my bread should be mine. It shouldn't be sold to Wonder Bread.
Or just a simple security hole where somebody can get in through your toaster, get your Wi-Fi password, change it to make it open, and then use your computer or your internet as a bot. It's just stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
so just pay attention.
One of the easiest ways, at least to remove one common vector, to remove the Wi-Fi vector, is when you buy a device, when you buy, a Roku or an Apple TV or whatever, if you can, use this. Just plug it in. That's it. It makes things a lot more secure, but it does remove some convenience, I'll admit. But most of the time, you'll get faster speeds off of this than you will off of Wi-Fi.
So, less interference and less of that 16 device limit and all that. Anyway, we're over time, so we're gonna end, and we'll say bye until next week.
See you guys.
Bye.